Hello, and welcome to the Hill Law Group podcast. My name is Meredith Hill,
And I'm Ericca Pearson.
and we are two attorneys at the Hill Law Group. The Hill Law Group is a estate planning firm based in Bethesda, Maryland, and we serve clients with their estate planning needs throughout Maryland, DC, and Virginia. As part of our role as attorneys, as estate planning attorneys, we like to educate not only our clients, but also about estate planning. And so we created this podcast as a means to do so. And so don't take this as legal advice. So we're not your specific attorneys unless you are actual clients of the Hill Law Group, but we are using this as a platform to help educate the community. So we do these different shows with different topics. And this episode's topic is about how trust can be used in terms of guardianship.
Yes. So lots of times when we're talking about trust, we kind of talk about the big thing that a trust does, and that is that it avoids going through the probate process. And if you have not said before, probate is the process that court-ordered process that you have to go through. Lots of red tape, lots of paperwork, lots of time that you want to avoid. And trusts do a good job of avoiding that. The other big thing that trusts help with is that if you ever become incapacitated, mentally incapacitated, and you need help with managing your assets. So I should speak for my own family. In my own family, there have been individuals that kind of start suffering from memory loss. And you think it's just aging and, or it's just their personality. But what can sometimes happen is that you start suffering from memory loss, and then it kind of spirals fairly quickly. Like in the span of 3 to 6 months, they go from they were just suffering from memory loss to now they have been diagnosed with some type of dementia. And depending on what stage of life you are or your status in life, so let's say you're a single person, you are suffering from mental, and this is just an example because there's loads of examples of this. Your memory loss, and then 3 to 6 months later, you have full-blown Alzheimer's. At that point, it is too late to discuss your estate planning needs, okay? And if you require assistance for people to take care of your mortgage, to pay your bills, then you are going to have to go through this process called guardianship. Guardianship is the process to go through guardianship, and doing an estate plan is way more expensive to get a guardian. It takes a lot of time. Can be very embarrassing for the person going through it, because what you've got to say about that person is they no longer are able to take care of themselves. And you kind of have to get in detail about how they are not able to take care of themselves. And me being a very proud person, I wouldn't want to sit in this process and you say, Ericca can't care for herself. She can't do this. She can't do these other things. And then someone is there to take guardianship of you. And it's, like I said, expensive process, lengthy process, and you can fix really that problem with having a trust in place.
I agree. Hence why we're doing this podcast. But I think that it's important to talk about what the guardianship process is, because it is just as a foundation before we talk about how we can avoid it. So the guardianship process involves court, and someone has taken it upon themselves. Usually it's a family member or someone that's close to you, and they have notified the court through a court filing and says that you are no longer in a position to care for yourself financially or care for any of your affairs, your personal affairs. And you're requesting that the court step in and appoint someone that will act on your behalf, given your limitations and your inability to do so. The court can find, or often will find, a guardian for this person. And it can be the who has filed the complaint, not the complaint, the action with the court, or it can be an appointed guardian. It may be an attorney that you know, and they charge a lot of money too to take care of your affairs, and it can be very
It's a hard job.
it's a very hard job, and
Mhm.
it can be very expensive, as you mentioned. So it may be someone that you know, someone that you don't know, someone that you know but you don't like, and they will have stepped in and they are acting on your behalf
Mhm.
to handle your personal affairs.
Mhm.
So in terms of estate planning, we like to empower people by making sure that they have control over every situation, um, either expected or unexpected. So in terms of guardianship, most of the time it's unexpected
Right.
because no one expects to need a guardian.
Yeah.
And like you mentioned earlier, it can be a very quick happening thing when a guardianship is needed. So a trust not only manages your financial affairs, or what happens to your possessions after you pass away. It also helps manage what happens to you as a person and individual if you are still living but are unable to care for yourself. So, if you have a trust and it has been properly funded, meaning assets have been properly placed into the trust, and you have hired an estate planning attorney who has drafted this correctly for you,
Hint, hint.
hint, 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 um, your trust should speak to who will manage your affairs on your behalf
Absolutely.
if um, there comes a time that you are unable to act on your behalf. And generally, that person is not named as your successor trustee, and it'll give instructions for how they should take control, step into that role, and act on your behalf.
So, and the good thing about the trust is that you are naming who that person is, who that person or persons are. And you have a view, like in your trust, it should say, what is incapacity? What
Mhm.
is it just mental incapacity? And it's not. In the trust that we draft, you also can be incapacitated if you have been missing for 30 days. Nobody ever wants to think about these things. But if you're missing for 30 days, if you are in jail, we hope that never happens. But these are the types of
It
things
does
that,
us life, though.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
incapacity, and it kind of it's veering a smidge off of guardianship, but it's talking about incapacity and how you are then in the driver's seat all the time of your life and saying, who do I nominate to step into my shoes to take care of my stuff?
Mhm.
You just don't ever want to, we don't ever want to turn over those controls to anybody else to say, just like you were saying, if it's somebody who, I don't like,
Mhm.
who I don't like the way they handle their own affairs, and now they're in charge of mine
Mhm.
because the court said so. When you can very, very simply reach out to an attorney and put
Mhm.
those documents together when you are clear of mind to indicate what you want done to you and your assets if ever you were to become mentally incapacitated.
And it makes things a lot easier for the people that you want to be your power of attorney, or not your power of attorney, your guardian.
Mhm.
Because often we get phone calls, as you know. We get phone calls, I should tell the audience, we get phone calls with people who want to get guardianship of their parents, or sign something on behalf of their parents, that their parents have dementia, or Alzheimer's, and they can't do anything. So unfortunately, at that point, it is too late for us to create any type of documents, estate planning documents for that individual, because they are not of sound mind to sign the documents, to understand what's happening. So ethically, we cannot do that. We have a professional responsibility that we have to uphold. So we can't do that. So unfortunately, that's when we have to tell the person, you have to go through the guardianship process through
Yeah.
court. And that can be, like we said, a very expensive, a very long process. And it's also, you touched on this briefly, can be very embarrassing for the person that's going through it, as well as the family members,
Absolutely.
because guardianship is a public
Yeah,
event because it
yeah.
happens in court. And you have to go in and say, you know, my loved one is doing XYZ.
Mhm.
And so we need to have someone step in.
Yeah,
And a lot of times, like, people want to keep that to themselves and
Yeah.
within the family.
absolutely.
Because it's already a difficult time, a difficult thing to deal with. So let's just keep it in the family. So we're all about planning and making sure that you are in the driver's seat, you have control over any situation. And so a trust is an excellent way to help avoid the guardianship process.
And we always say sooner rather than later, right?
Yes.
So I know lots of times people want to push out doing estate planning because it does make you think about either me becoming mentally incapacitated and or passing away. But you want to be in a place where nothing is wrong, where I'm healthy, everything is good, and I am putting documents into play when something goes wrong.
Mhm.
So we say, especially with things like as it relates to dementia and guardianship, you want to do that while people are clear of mind and nothing is happening. And I guess we don't have this crystal ball to kind of know that, but here's things that I say to kind of clue you into those things. If your family members are suffering from that, you kind of feel like that's in my family, and maybe I should be thinking along those lines. So let me put together documents in place because my mother suffered from that, my sister, my uncle, whoever. I think that's a bit of a clue. And then I think if you are suffering from, people kind of know. Because we get that sometimes. It's like my
Mhm.
memory is failing me, and I feel like it's worse now than it was 6 months ago.
Mhm.
And so I want to make sure that something's in place now before it gets any worse.
Mhm.
So we just encourage everyone to think about putting your estate plan together now.
Mhm.
We've talked about the power of now in
The power
other
of now.
yes, in other podcasts. But the power of now is so important as it relates to estate planning, and specifically when we're talking about guardianship and how that relates to your estate planning plans.
I agree. Well, that is our little spiel, our 10-minute spiel about how trust can help with guardianship. If you want to learn more, visit our website, www.thehilllawgroup.com. And if you are located in Maryland, DC, or Virginia and want to learn more about our estate planning services, feel free to go to our website, again, thehilllawgroup.com, and schedule a virtual meet and greet with one of our attorneys. And also follow us on social media at hilllawgroup.com, or there's no .com at the end of that, at Hill Law Group. Follow us. Uh, with that, we will see you next time.